We begin this episode by acknowledging the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which we record and share these stories. We pay our deepest respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all First Nations peoples listening or watching today's episode. We honour those who walked before us, their enduring connection to country, and the stories held in land, sky, and spirit. May we listen with openness and learn with humility. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to Beyond the Veil Australia podcast, where history, mystery, and the unexplained collide. From eerie encounters to forgotten histories, from channeled messages to scientific perspectives, we explore phenomena that defy easy explanation. I'm Heather, your guide through the shadows and the host of Beyond the Veil Australia podcast. Together, we'll unravel paranormal events, curious connections, and the questions that refuse to stay quiet. So whether you're a skeptic, a seeker, or somewhere in between, this space is for you. Welcome. Last season, we lifted the veil, but this time, we step through. So, the passage is open. What waits beyond is now calling your name. Hello, and welcome to part 2 of Tools of the Trade. This one is focused on spiritual and divination techniques. Once again, thank you all for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed the podcasting journey so far. It's been a really interesting journey for me, and I've really enjoyed being able to not only just do research into the realm that I really enjoy learning about and have always had a strong connection with the paranormal, but it's fantastic that there's been so many people that have really got on board with this journey and followed along, whether you're a listener or a viewer or both, or whether you're somebody that is engaged with me on socials or follows along with our socials. I really appreciate every single one of you out there. And once again, this podcast couldn't be where it's at right now in season 2 without all of you. So congratulations to all of you for being able to really help bring this podcast to life. So thank you all again. And I really hope that you enjoy the Tools of the Trade episodes. They're always fun to explore. I know we've covered quite a few topics across season 1, and now we're going to cover about 4 more across season 2. There's also going to be lots of other fun experiences and opportunities that will come up across season 2 as well. So I hope you're all enjoying it. Stay tuned for even more. But yeah, I would just like to ask if you really enjoy listening to the podcast, if you could please leave a review or a comment. It just helps the podcast get seen and noticed by other people that would enjoy listening to paranormal content and, of course, listening to me ramble on about stuff. So once again, thanks heaps for joining me. And welcome to Beyond the Veil Australia podcast, season 2. Some tools listen. Others respond. They don't just detect energy, they interact with it. Pendulums, tarot, automatic writing. These are not passive instruments. They are extensions of intuition, mirrors of the subconscious, and bridges to the unseen. In this episode, we explore the tools that ask us to surrender logic and to trust something far older, not just communication, but communion. Pendulums, the language of subtle movement. A pendulum is deceptively simple, a weighted object suspended from a chain. But in spiritual practice, it becomes a translator, swinging in response to unseen energies, offering yes/no answers, directional cues, and energetic diagnostics. The historical origins of dowsing, diagnosis, and divination. The use of pendulums dates back thousands of years. Ancient Chinese texts describe dowsing rods used to locate underground water and minerals. Egyptian priests used similar tools in temple rituals. In the 16th century, Paracelsus wrote of pendulums as diagnostic instruments, believing they could detect imbalances in the body's vital energies. By the 19th century, pendulums had entered spiritualist circles, used to communicate with spirits and divine truth. Ideomotor effect and intuitive access. A 2007 study in Consciousness and Cognition confirmed that pendulum movement can be influenced by unconscious muscle activity, known as the ideomotor effect. But belief plays a role. Participants who trusted the pendulum's power showed stronger directional responses, suggesting that expectation enhances intuitive access. This doesn't disprove spiritual use, it reframes it. The pendulum may be moved by the subconscious, but that doesn't make it meaningless. It may be a mirror of inner knowing. Pendulums as energetic amplifiers. Practitioners often choose pendulums made of crystals like quartz, amethyst, or obsidian, each believed to carry specific energetic properties. Quartz is used for clarity, amethyst for intuition, obsidian for grounding. The pendulum becomes not just a tool, but a ritual object, attuned to the user's energy and intention. Pendulums and spirit communication. Authors Lana Gendlin and Karen Mueller describe pendulums as amazing guidance assistants, tools that work in partnership with your divine team. Their book, Pendulums and Intuition, outlines how pendulums can be used to select tarot decks, clarify card meanings, and confirm spiritual messages. The pendulum becomes a co-pilot in divination, responsive, attuned, and deeply personal. Just an anonymous quote. When I use a pendulum, I'm not asking for proof. I'm asking for presence. It's not about control. It's about surrender. It's about letting something deeper speak through movement. Really like that. Speaking of tools, at the moment for myself, I obviously have my crystals and I have my tarot and my oracle decks. I do a lot of automatic writing and I do a lot of channeling through my automatic writing. I'll have times where I just kind of let the pen write and tell a story, and other times I have to sort of sit and scribble and sort of tune in, and then I'll kind of get words or sounds or anything that will come through that way. So interesting. That's sort of my tool belt at this point in time. I haven't actually ventured into any of the technological stuff. I've obviously seen it used many a times, but I've never actually personally used it. The only thing I will say that I've used maybe for 5 minutes and I thought it was a crock of shit was I was just curious to see some of these phonetic apps, right, that, spit the words out. And I kind of was like, I'll see what this is about. And so I got my tarot deck out and I put this, whatever it was, on. And it was just spitting out words that weren't even remotely in context to anything. And I was just sitting there like, nah, this one's full of shit. So I've generally kind of gone, I like the idea of some of these, but again, it really depends on what app you're using. But I tried one and I just went, no, not for me, and fucked it off. But pendulums, they're something that I've recently started kind of looking into a bit more and sort of thinking about, is this something that I'm curious to explore. And I think it is. I've seen pendulums used quite a lot, and I've always been fascinated by them. Um, I don't have one as yet. I think, again, it's like one of those things. I know I've covered it with some of my interviews where, in fact, I think all guests that I've spoken to, we've all somehow covered the Ouija board, interestingly enough. And, one of the common themes that I think we were all kind of thinking about and what we'd spoken about was that, it's like any other tool. You need to sort of feel ready and guided to use that. And I think that was the experience I had with my tarot cards. I'd always loved tarot cards and I couldn't figure out why I loved them. I just did. And so I ended up getting like a Rider-Waite deck, and it I really wanted to get in tune with it, but I really struggled. And so it wasn't until probably almost 2 years ago, I'd found another deck. And when I looked at it, I went, oh my God, I think this is the one that I need to use. I feel like this is the one that is really going to help me tune in. I feel like it meets me where I'm at. I meet it. And it's been honestly like the best deck ever. It's, I'll just get it here. I know we're not talking about tarot cards in this point in time, but the Modern Tarot Reader, this is by Claire Goodchild, and I absolutely love her cards. I'll give you a little look on the back there. Hopefully you can all see that if you're watching. If you're not, I will definitely try and get a snapshot of the box, because I don't like taking photos of my actual tarot cards. If I do, I'll take one of the box or of the guidebook. I think it's just a respect thing for them and for me. If I felt that they'd given me permission to actually take a photo of the cards, then I would, but I don't think I think that's kind of too invasive. I think I'd rather just kind of show what they look like on the box or in the guidebook. So that might be something that I'll pop on social media at some point. But sort of talking about feeling guided to use it, I'd felt guided for quite some time. And once I found this deck, I felt myself feeling more drawn to getting to know it, shuffling it, just, working my way through, turning the cards over and actually not just going, I need to know what that card is in the guidebook. It's more about just kind of associating, what each suit is, what the major arcana is, and getting a feel for what the illustration is on the card as to what that deck will be trying to emphasize as the meaning. And, obviously there's lots of different meanings behind each card, but, we'll touch on that soon, because I do believe we will be covering tarot in this. But yeah, I think you feel really guided to using something like that. So with the pendulums, it was probably about a month ago, there is a place called Crystal World. It's only about 8 minutes from where I live, and it's also got like a fun dinosaur park. So my kids loved the dinosaurs. Well, my younger one did anyway. And so I'd sort of gone there and I was having a look sort of in the actual like shop part of it, and I saw lots of beautiful pendulums, and I kept feeling drawn to them, but I just wasn't entirely sure where I was at in terms of whether I was ready to use one or not. And, lots of books that I've been, well, I say listening to because I listen to the audio books because I can multitask, that I've been listening to have sort of really talked about some of the things with pendulums, and it's really piqued my curiosity even more. So it is definitely something I'm going to kind of look into. But I know, again, it's I think with sort of divination tools in particular, a lot of it is you need to feel ready to start exploring that. And potentially it's the same for some of the scientific equipment. Maybe some people feel more drawn to that than they do to divination stuff. So, interestingly, I think that could be something that makes a bit of sense. And that's just my view. It could be completely different for everyone. But yeah, I think pendulums are quite interesting. And as it was sort of described, it's quite a simplistic type of tool, but sometimes they have an absolute benefit, because you don't want to be overcomplicating a communication process. So, some days I feel really drawn to using my tarot cards and connecting that way. Other times I feel more drawn to holding a crystal and doing some automatic writing, or doing some channeling using my notepad and my pen. Or sometimes I just feel like meditating or holding the crystals and just having that like kind of like remote viewing experience, but without anything else. It's just me kind of tuning in. And so I think the pendulum definitely could be interesting, sort of a bit further in my journey in kind of exploring, where will that particular tool fit with what tools I've got now, and how am I going to use those different communication styles and techniques. So yeah, I'm curious to sort of look more into pendulums. I'm also interested if any of you that are listening or watching, if you use pendulums, if you do, what have you found with having them? Do you use it often? Do you not use it often? Did it take you several attempts to start using a pendulum? Do you have any specific supporting tools that you use with it? Like, do you use the pendulum over a yes, no, maybe board? Do you just hold it and direct which direction you want it to go? Or do you use it like, do you use tarot cards and then tune in with the pendulum, or whatever that might be? So I'm kind of curious if anybody is listening or watching that has experience with pendulums and you want to share. Either you can leave it in the comments, or if you don't want it to be, like out there for the world to see, you're always welcome to send me a DM on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. I would probably suggest TikTok or Instagram because they're the ones I'm on the most. And let me know, because I'm really curious to sort of learn more about it. So yeah, hit me up if you've got any experiences that you wanted to share with the pendulum as well. But I guess we can kind of keep moving, and because we've kind of covered a bit on my experience with tarot, it sort of leads into the next part of this episode really well, which is about tarot, the symbolism, archetypes, and intuitive dialogue. Tarot is a language. Each card is a sentence. Each spread, a conversation. For centuries, mystics, seekers, and storytellers have turned tarot not for prediction, but for reflection. It doesn't tell you what will happen, it shows you what's already unfolding. Historical origins. Tarot began in the 15th century in Italy as a card game called tarocchi, played among aristocrats. The Visconti Sfora deck, one of the oldest surviving examples, was commissioned by nobility and illustrated with allegorical figures. In the 18th century, Antoine Court de Gibelin, oh God, I hope I've said that right, reinterpreted tarot as a mystical system, linking it to Egyptian law, astrology, and Kabbalah. This marked the shift from entertainment to historic wisdom. Tarot and the psychological insight. Carl Jung saw tarot as a gateway to archetypes, universal symbols that live in collective unconsciousness. A 2019 study in the Journal of Humanistic Psychology found that tarot readings increased emotional insight and self-reflection, especially when paired with journaling or guided interpretation. Participants reported greater clarity around personal challenges and as a sense of symbolic resonance that felt therapeutic. Symbolism and intuition. The cards as mirrors. Each tarot deck carries its own energy, shaped by its artwork, symbolism, and the reader who holds it. The major arcana tells the story of the soul's journey. The minor arcana reflects daily life, emotional cycles, and elemental forces. The cards don't just reflect, they respond. They meet you where you are and show you what you are ready to see. So in contemporary practice, tarot as a dialogue with spirit. Tarot is often used in tandem with other tools, pendulums, oracle decks, and intuitive writing. Practitioners describe the cards as portals, not predictors. They offer insight, not instruction. And when paired with ritual, intention, and trust, they become sacred instruments of transformation. My deck speaks in symbols. It doesn't give me answers, it gives me awareness. It's not a map, it's a mirror. I also just forgot to mention that was another anonymous quote. But more or less mine is very similar. It tells a story through the symbols. And sometimes I find for myself, people go, oh, and I mean, I don't know how true this is across the tarot community. I don't know, but I have heard people across, social media platforms and that go, oh, you shouldn't need your guidebook and this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, there's a reason why there is a guidebook. It's not just for learning. It's about also kind of having an additional meaning there in front of you that you may not be picking up when you're reading that card. So I know for myself, there'll be cards that I'll pull out and I'll go, yep, okay, yep, you're so and so, and this is how it fits in here, and that's how it fits in there. But sometimes, if I kind of go, oh, am I on the right path with this, or am I understanding this correctly? And then I'll get another card that'll pop up that will almost kind of give me this thought, or whether I've just picked it up from the card, that it's like, you've missed something in this card. And so having the guidebook is, it's like, all right, well, I know it's this, 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 and this. Like, what have I missed? And I can go back and look at the guidebook, and then I'll go, oh my God, yes, now, yeah, okay, I get it now. And now I can see a little bit more into that. So I use my guidebook as the supporter, that if I haven't picked something up, and let's be honest, we're all human, we'll pick up certain things, but we don't always get the whole message. And so sometimes my spirit guide will verbalize things for me when I'm reading the cards. Other times she'll kind of go, you've missed something, and then I have to go back. And sometimes it can just be that I've pulled a card and I go, hang on, how's that even fit into anything? And then I have to go all the way back and go, what have I missed? What have I missed? And work my way through. And then generally that card will then kind of be like, the penny will drop. I go, shit, okay, yeah, you're basically telling me I've missed this whole section of this. That makes sense now, So that's just the way that I do it. And most of the time I'm not reading tarot for other people. I'm using it as a communication tool for my current circumstances, or if I'm wanting to connect remotely, to a location. If I was, for example, if I wanted to connect with someone somewhere that was 300 kilometers away, and I kind of went, all right, well, this is what I'm wanting to do. I'm going to use this particular method, and I'm going to use my tarot cards. So, you can use what works for you. And sometimes it's a combination of both. And sometimes when you're pulling cards, you'll be kind of going, how does this fit into anything? And so you'll kind of write down what it is. And then when you've closed um, your session or your channel, and you've closed everything down, and you kind of go, okay, so what have I got? And sometimes you can then go back through and go, okay, hang on, what came through when I pulled that card up? What was I hearing, thinking, seeing, feeling? And what was the card trying to say in relation to those things? And you can then use your guidebook to kind of go, fuck, okay, yeah, all right. So that might be connecting to that card, and that's why I felt, saw, heard, smelt, whatever, this in this context. So that for me is how I use my tarot. I don't do readings for people. That's not what I feel is right for me. I feel that it's after recent episodes with Sam from Aussie Afterlife, I think neither of us expected to be tuning in to a location and actually really delving into it. So, I think for me, that was something that then highlighted that, well, maybe what I have been doing with wanting to try and connect in different ways, maybe that's more where my tools are being utilized with my skill and development. So that's just my kind of example with tarot. I love tarot. I think, it's something that I've always been drawn to. I still don't really know why I've been drawn to it. I don't know. It's just, maybe it's just a method that, it's like, as we were talking about before, prior to talking about tarot, when we were kind of reflecting on pendulums and other things, was that, sometimes you don't always know. It's just that the deck will connect with you, you connect with it, and you meet each other where you're at. So yeah, that's just my experience with it. But again, if any of you are listening or watching that also use tarot, same question. Do you use it to give readings to people? Do you use it for connecting with different entities? Do you, if you're an investigator, and you use tarot, do you take tarot on an investigation? So, I'm really curious to hear about other people's experiences and how they use the tools as well. So much like the pendulums, I definitely think that's something that I want to explore, but I'm kind of curious to hear what others have experienced and what they like about different divination tools if they're using them. So again, you can send me a DM on TikTok or Instagram, or you can leave a comment on the podcast platform that you're listening, or on YouTube if you're watching, if you feel comfortable. I'm really curious to hear more about other people's experiences as well. So but moving into the next part of this, which is automatic writing, channeling the unspoken. I kind of, again, it's the way the episodes kind of flowed today is that I've kind of intertwined them all into different parts where they've all sort of fitted and then kind of been the guide into the next area of exploration. So, hopefully I haven't bored you too much so far. But automatic writing is the act of letting words flow without conscious control. Some call it channeling. Others call it subconscious release. And for me, it's a sacred practice, and it's a way that I hear what intuition whispers before the mind interprets. So, some of the historical origins: mediumship and literary channeling. I can't even speak today, my bad. Automatic writing gained popularity during the spiritualist movement in the late 19th century. Mediums like Pearl Curran claimed to channel entire books from discarnate entities. Most famously, Patience Worth, whose writings were published and studied for decades. Curran's work was so stylistically distinct that literal scholars debated whether it could be explained by subconscious creativity alone. Some of the expanded research around dissociation, flow state, and symbolic access. A 2015 study in Psychology of Consciousness found that automatic writing shares traits with dissociated states and creative flow. Participants who engaged in free writing exercises showed increased access to emotional memory and symbolic language. The study concluded that automatic writing may bypass the ego, allowing deeper truth to surface. Writing as a channel. Many practitioners believe that automatic writing opens a channel to spirit guides, ancestors, or even higher self. The process is often ritualized, beginning with grounding, intention setting, and invocation. The words that emerge may feel foreign, poetic, or deeply personal. Whether seen as a spiritual or a psychological, the result is the same: clarity, insight, and transformation. In the contemporary practice, writing as a ritual. Some use automatic writing to receive messages from their spirit team. Others use it to process grief, trauma, or spiritual awakening. The page becomes a sacred space where intuition speaks and the veil's thin. I've also got another anonymous quote here. When I write this way, I'm not trying to be clever. I'm trying to be clear, to let something speak through me, not for me. Really, really kind of cool and interesting in that too. Most of what was sort of talked about in that one, I really enjoy, particularly in this episode where we're looking at differences between technological stuff and spiritual and divination. But it's really cool being able to kind of see where there's different research, reports, papers, books, anything, even studies itself that haven't necessarily, been a massive thing, but have kind of highlighted a few things. And as I was kind of saying before, with my experience of automatic writing, it really depends on what I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to tune into a particular place or a particular like spirit or anything like that, I think, again, it's all about, you would go through your ritual and you would, be very specific about who and what you're wanting to communicate with. And you can kind of let them just tell a story, whatever that might be. And then there are other times where, if I have a very vague idea of a lot of places, which I do, like oddly enough, haunted locations, I seem to know more about locations abroad from Australia than I do about the Australian locations, because they're just not talked about enough here. So, for me, when I hear about people going, oh, we're going to go and investigate here or there, or would you like to come here or would you like to come there? And I sort of think, well, yes, because I'm really keen to see what I get, because I actually know nothing about this location, or the only thing I know about it is its name. And that's it. There's no additional history. I just haven't looked into it because they're just not talked about in Australia. So, which makes it kind of interesting for me. So sometimes if I was to tune into a particular location, so an example of that would have been like when Sam and I, in the last 2 episodes of season 1, where we explored, an area somewhat local to me, and particular things that each of us were picking up on. And, even before we started working our way through it a little bit, just some of the stuff that we were each picking up on that was validating to the other person was just really interesting. So sometimes for me, having like a notepad or any kind of like writing paper and a pen, for me, if I was to channel in sometimes like that, to get a lot more information in a shorter space of time, I can then kind of use that as the tool to be like, okay, if there are any energies or spirits that want to tell me their story about X location, if you're in that location or surrounding area and you need to tell your story, you can do so through me, whether you want to actually tell the story, or are you, whether you want to physically write it out, or if you only just want to give me, a highlight reel of that. So sometimes, um, if I'm doing something like a reasonably big location or a big surrounding area, most of the time it's just kind of like, okay, this is open for whoever wants to come through. And sometimes, I've just got to sit there and, just scribble and just kind of tune in. And then sometimes I'll hear sounds, I'll experience a physical sensation, I will smell something. I almost get occasionally, and it's quite funny because I actually had this happen very recently, but I was sort of in the depths of kind of just getting all these different things, and then suddenly it's like, the way I describe it is like, for anybody that's watched a paranormal investigation show, when they might have like a spirit box or something, or a geoport or something going, and they're kind of getting bits and pieces of information, and then you'll get like a random one that pops in and then asks a question and then just disappears again. I actually had one like that, and it was kind of funny because it was sort of, I could sort of feel them kind of come through, ask who I was, and then just move on. So it's quite funny, little things like that. So you kind of just get moments of time that get captured in that type of automatic writing as well. So sometimes it's, in the UAP episodes right at the beginning of season 1, I had a particular entity of, well, from potentially another plane, who looked a particular type of way that is often talked about with sightings of these particular beings. And it was a female entity of that particular nature. And this female entity was able to kind of use me as like being the scribe, where she was able to write out like it would be like reading a book, like a story type of thing. Whereas most recent sort of types of automatic writing that I've done have been more a bit like what I was saying before. You'll just have them pop in, pop out, vision here, word there, so it is interesting kind of being able to do both. And to me, that's just normal. But I mean, I don't know if there's other people that do automatic writing or anything like that. Again, I didn't know that it was actually even really a thing. I just thought I kind of was a bit nuts, which I probably am, but just, because it wasn't something that has really been put out there. Like if you were to go to a psychic fair or something like that, there's a lot of tarot readers and healers and Reiki masters, but there's nobody there doing automatic writing. So for me, it was kind of like the only medium that I'd ever seen use it that I went, oh, okay, maybe this is a slight thing here, was Cindy Kaiser, who, if you're listening abroad and you're in the US, you will know exactly who I'm talking about. But Cindy Kaiser is a a very wonderful psychic medium based in the US, and she's done some really amazing investigations with Jack Osborne and Katrina Weidman. She's done, I think recently she's moved into doing Dead Files with, oh God, what's his name? I can see his face. I can't remember his name. Sorry, guys. You'll probably all know who it is. But yeah, she's done lots of different things throughout her career with televised sort of mediumship, which is really cool to watch. And I remember watching her do some automatic writing, and I was like, oh, is that what that? Oh, okay. Well, that's something I can do. So maybe it's actually associated with that. It's not something completely random. And then as I've kind of gone on my journey, the more I've started to actually find people doing it more. I believe one of the girls from the Ghost Gangs, not the Ghost Gang, sorry, the Ghost Gals, I believe she does automatic writing as well. I can't remember if it's Asha or Alana that does it. One of the girls does. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, so I'm not like completely out of my brain. Like this is something that people do. And I know that, you know, Sam had taken a few notes through our previous experiences and, you know, different things like that. So it was kind of interesting to see that it is something that is used a lot more than what is the public perception of it. So that's one thing I have noticed is that, you know, some of these things that I just go, oh, can't everyone do that? Suddenly realizing that no, not everyone can do that. And yeah, just enjoy that. It's a party trick that no one else can do. But yeah, so really, really fascinating being able to kind of explore some of those types of divination. Obviously, there is a little bit more. We briefly touched on dowsing rods. Again, that's another one, much like the pendulum, that I'm really, really kind of curious in exploring more because I've seen some people use them and they again, some of these people make it look effortless, but again, I can see with much the likes of the pendulum that it might be a more simplistic tool, but I think you can still get some really good communication and results using them. So again, if you've had any experience with any of the types of divination tools that we've chatted about today, please, yeah, reach out. Let me know. I'm really curious to hear other people's experiences because, you know, I've sort of only really got my own stuff to compare it to or to, you know, investigators worldwide that do sort of the same thing. So I'd be really curious to hear what other people do, how they experience things, and what their preferred method of communication is if they use divination tools. So, yeah, really, really interesting. But we are now kind of moving into the closing of this episode. So we haven't done as much of a deep dive. And the only reason we haven't is because we could go on again for 5 years on just the divination techniques. So these are probably things that I'll look into more specifically further down the line because there are some areas that I'm really curious to do more specific deep dives into, much like a lot of the topics from last season as well. But in the next episode, it is going to be a part 3 to Tools of the Trade. So, scientific tools ask for evidence, spiritual tools ask for trust. Pendulums, tarot, and automatic writing. They don't just listen, they answer. They don't just measure, they mirror. And maybe that's the point, not to prove the unseen, but to participate in it. So next time, in part 3, we go even deeper, beyond the tools themselves and into the consciousness that animates them. We'll explore the rituals and different types of experiences that open the portals, the practices that shift perception, and the states of awareness that blur the boundary between self and spirit. In episode 3, we journey into the sacred technologies of transformation, from breathwork to trance, from ancestral ceremony to modern mysticism. Not just tools of divination, but tools of becoming. So, once again, stay curious, stay grounded, and thank you all again for listening or viewing. It's always appreciated. And Again, if you could please leave a review or a comment on whatever platform you're on, or whether you're on YouTube watching, that would be really appreciated for a small little podcaster like myself. It just helps the podcast get seen by others that would really enjoy engaging with the content that's coming out of this podcast. So thank you all again for joining me. And I cannot wait to touch base with you again in part 3 of Tools of the Trade. But for now, stay curious, stay grounded, and always expect the unexpected. Bye.